Hi, good day. Just wanted to talk to you a little bit today about the responsibilities of a child. Now, what triggered this? We are already facing many difficulties, especially as parents in our country, but across the world. Um, Adults have a lot of things that they need to be aware of. In Guyana, for example, we have political uncertainties. We have somewhat of we have a virus that is affecting our country as well, and is causing some amount of havoc because of this virus. Many adults are not able to um, perform their normal functions, and some people that may have lost their jobs. Some people are actually working for less income than normal. Uh, some people, even if they didn't have a job and they were doing something on their own, now don't have access to be able to really perform that function and to get rewarded. Other than that, even our economic prospects, where is the money going to come from in the future? There's a little bit of doubt around that as well, especially with a low level of income coming into the country. So as adults, we face quite a bit of challenges. The circumstances can create a lot of doubts in our minds. And we are supposed to be the leaders in our household as well. And for the adults that do have, either one child, multiple children, that's a big responsibility. I think when you are an adult and either you get married or you don't get married or you adopt, but once you have children that depend on you or a child that depends on you, you have the responsibility of the very basics to provide food, clothing, and shelter to those kids, to provide them with access to education, and education as well, to make sure that they, and of course, you're going to do this to the best of your ability. And that's why, it is a significant responsibility. Some people have one child, some people have a lot of children. I believe that the more children you have, in some cases, it becomes easier because you had some practice with the first one. So it becomes easier maybe on the second one and the third one. On the flip side, the more kids you have as well, you'll have to provide more food, um, more money for schooling, clothing. So your cost also go up significantly. And this is it's something that you have to think about when you're doing your family planning, based on what you and your spouse, or maybe if it's just you, how are you going to make sure that you can provide the best for your kids? Now, all these responsibilities. So we know that for sure the adults need to provide food, clothing, shelter, schooling, and that isn't, those are the things that you can easily quantify and kind of put a budget to. But then you have two very big things, which are your love and your time. And in many cases, people haven't, set aside how much time they will be investing with their kids. And that can cause your children to grow up in a particular way as well. Because if you think about school, right, we're the ones who are supposed to, and we take the responsibility as well of developing children, uh, growing them up to become better versions of ourselves. I think as parents, maybe that's one of the best things we can do, make them, guide them, because we can only guide them the way we know ourselves, right? We can only see life through our own programming. And it's very tough for you to program someone else, especially your child, with programming that you don't have. And if you know what your programming is, the best you would want to do is make sure that your child is better off than you are. I think that would be a fairly good goal to have. But we also outsource a lot of our children's education to the schools. Some of us who live in different communities, maybe the community plays a role in the way your child is brought up as well. And that means as well that your child has different influences. They have influences from the schools, of course, their friends, their peer groups. They have influences from television, social media. Um, Anything now could be Googled. Many of them, we ourselves, because we may not have had the time, we put a device in front of them to keep them busy. But that's a big influence in how they have also grown up. So although we want them to be better versions of us, we could end up in a situation where, because of the influences that they're getting, um, they may not turn out exactly the way we want it to. And sometimes we recognize it by the time they're 6, sometimes we recognize it by the time they're 10, sometimes we recognize it by the time they're 15. Now, I'm going to assume here that I'm talking to parents who are doing their best. They have realized that they made a decision to bring kids into the world, and they're doing their best to provide food, clothing, shelter, an education, love, and time. And I do want to, for a second, flip over to the child. And I know a lot of children are on social media as well. A lot of kids might be able to see this video as well. Recognize also that when someone brings you in the world, and now I'm talking to you as a child, when someone, your parents brought you into the world, and we're going to assume that you have good parents. And if you don't have good parents, you could be like me as well. I grew up with my grandparents, and my grandparents took really good care of me. They provided those things for me as well. When you have people who invest in you, who make sure that you have food, you have clothing, you have shelter, you have an education, they give you their time, they give you their love, what is your responsibility as a child? And I know that you as a child right now, especially if you're 6 and above, what you have learned in your 6 years, the amount of information that has been sent into your brain is almost as much as the amount of information that was put into an adult's brain, some 20, 30, 40 years ago. By the time I was 18, if I compare myself at 18 to a child that is 6 right now, the level of information that they've gotten could be equal to what I got by the time I was 18. So I know that kids nowadays are very well informed, and I like when I talk to a child, because talking to a child is like talking to a mini adult with the amount of knowledge that they have and how they can communicate. So they know quite a bit. So to the children, if I'm to talk to you right now, realize the level of responsibility that your parents have. And especially in this day and age, they have to now also deal with the situation of uncertainty, with their jobs, with the future of the country. So all of that is also playing on their mind. What responsibility could you take to just make it a little bit easier for them? Is it that you get influenced by peers or whoever to think that giving my parents a hard time is my responsibility, is what my objective is? Is that really your objective? Do you really want to give these people who have been making all these efforts to make sure that you have a good life? Is it your responsibility to make it difficult for them? Is it your responsibility to not listen to them? Is it your responsibility to do the opposite of what they're asking you to do? Do you think that when they ask you to do something, that it is supposed to be negative for you or positive for you? Do you think that they want the best for you? Now, if we were to assume that your parents want the best for you, then maybe some of the things that you could do as a child is listen, make sure that you understand. If there's something that you're not clear on, ask why. So mom, dad, grandmom, why are you asking me to do this? Let them explain it to you. And to parents as well, I would encourage you, explain to your kids why you're asking them to do certain things. But as a child, ask why, make sure you understand it. Anything that you can do as well to make their life a little bit easier, I'm sure that they would appreciate. You might not have thought about it like this before, but with all the responsibility on the shoulders of adults, your father, your mother, whoever takes care of you, sometimes getting a little hand is maybe the best thing that happens to them for the day, because who else is helping them, right? Think about it. Your parents have to do the work, they get paid, all that responsibility is on them. Generally, they don't have anybody else who helps them to do anything. And you who benefits the most from all their efforts, the least you could do is listen to them, and however you can help them. If they ask you to do a chore, do that. If they're teaching you something that will allow you to develop a skill in the future, so if they teach you how to press your clothes, how to cook something, how to make up your bed, how to how to be able to block out sometimes so you can read your book, how to use the internet so that you can follow your classes, whatever they're asking you to do, understand that they're asking you to do that so that it serves you now, but just not now. It will serve you for the rest of your life. So, what I'm asking you for today, this is not the type of video I normally do. What I'm asking you for today is to cooperate with your parents. Be part of the team. Wouldn't it be fantastic if instead of it being an antagonistic relationship where it seems like it's you against your parents, and I'm sure there are also a lot of kids who are really model kids and they really help a lot. This is meant to the kids who are on the fence, or maybe the kids who don't understand the sacrifices that the parents are making and the efforts that the parents are making. I really want you to understand that if you were to operate like a team and sometimes go up to your parents as well, ask them, is there anything I can help with? Right? Is there anything I can learn so I can help with as well? It would really make their life a little bit easier. If there are things that are affecting you, talk to your parents. I strongly encourage you, at least in every evening, half an hour, sit together for dinner. Talk to your parents and let them know what is affecting you. I'm sure they were kids one time. You may not believe it, but your parents were children as well, sometime in the past. And, maybe at least 50% of the things you're facing today, if not 100%, they would have faced when they were children. So sit with your parents, and if you're not very good at explaining yourself, if you already know to write it down. If you have an older sibling, brother or sister, explain it to them. Because you do need to be able to communicate. And if I use myself as an example, I have a daughter. I grew up with only brothers. So I didn't understand much about girls. Happy that my wife is part of the team because my wife helps a lot. But certain things that I don't understand about girls, my daughter has to explain to me how it works. And then I have to sit, I have to think about it, and then I figure it out. And then I can play along. I can play my part as a member of the team. So I'm going to ask you, be a part of the team. In many cases, you might be the only team member that your parents have. And be a dependable team player. Be someone that your parents can depend on as well, that they can appreciate the same way that they know that they're taking a large block of their life to make sure that you have a good life, that you have a life that is better than theirs. So don't wait until it's too late. Don't wait until they're 60, 70, 80, and then to realize what they went through. Because when they're 60, you're most likely going to be 30 or 40. Then you will be exactly in the position that they are in today with you. And you don't want it to be that late when you can't do very much for them, to then realize that, I should have really been nicer to my parents. I really should have seen if there were ways in which I could have helped them. So I wanted to share that with you today. To the parents, keep becoming better versions of yourself. If you're not sure how to be a better parent, find someone that you think is a better parent. And of course, there's no perfect parent, but find some attribute, something about them that they do really well, and ask them to share with you how come your kids do this. How have you taught them to do that? Many of us do things the old-fashioned way, taking up a ton of time when we could have really done it better. But you're only going to do it better if you learn better. So you do have to reach out and find out. So parents, keep getting better. Kids, please understand what your parents are going through. Do your best to support them in whatever way you can. You are a mini adult, right? I believe that as soon as a kid is like 6, 7 years old, they're already like a mini adult. And I respect that. I think with the level of everything that comes at them at this day and age, if they weren't a mini adult, they'll probably run mad as well with the amount of things that are happening around them. So as mini adults, also become a part of the team, and ask your parents what you can help with. Explain to them the things that are not working so well in your life, and let them become your friends. It's I love being friends with my daughter. It's taken a couple of years to get there, but I love being able to be there, and it's a much better relationship. So wanted to really share that with you today. If this helps, share it, and let's make sure that we're all on the path to being better parents, being better kids as well, so that we can really have a society. There's already so much of a mess happening outside, in the outside world. Let's not make our homes a place where we wish we weren't. Yeah? Let our homes be the place where we really wish that we, yes, I was saying, let our homes be the places where we see as a sanctuary, where we would love to be, right? Where we really appreciate everyone else that we share this home with. And the only way that is going to happen is if we make the effort to do so, right? And I can tell you it doesn't take that much time. I'm by no way the perfect parent, but I think that over my lifetime, I've always made sure that it's at least a half an hour, in some cases 2 hours per day, investing on the family side of things. May not be sufficient, but when I do it intentionally, and I'm asking you the same thing. Just give people time. When you're doing something with the family, make sure that it's very intentional. And Shabana, thank you very much. So children are intelligent humans that we can learn from. I find that we have to talk to them and not talk down to them, as we often get frustrated. It's a beautiful journey once the respect is given equally. So very, very important. Uh, you want your kids to really grow up into better versions of you. So make the effort. It's going to be well worth it. And I look forward to talking to you again very soon.